in the middle of our tournament where my friend John said he found a body in the bushes over there. I ran over there because I'm a healing monk to try and help, but obviously my magic wasn't strong enough because the dude's body was missing a head. So my friend decided to try and use a necromancer spell, which didn't work, which I knew it wouldn't. And apparently we contaminated the crime scene because that spell uses a lot of glitter.
Your Honor, I object!
And why is that, Mr. Reed?
Because it's devastating to my case!
I gotta tell you, you brighten my day, ma'am. All right?
That's what the last guy said, and then he sued me.
What's happening, people? Good evening. Oh, I am too big yet again. I don't like that. Okay. Good evening. Today is a very special day. I'm so glad that you all are here. Hello, Kokomo, Indiana. I heard that Indiana's got some nasty tornadoes happening. So for those of you who are in the alley, who are in the Midwest, please be blessed and not too stressed and stay safe from these tornadoes. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Romy, what is up, my friend? I'm so glad you're here. Ask Bob's here too. Yes, today is Proctorless Day. Today is Thursday, the 19th of March. So we're going to have to remember that that's Proctorless Day. We're so happy about it. Okay, so we have a party to do. I personally decorated for everybody. I have my little bows, my ducks, but I've got bows everywhere. And I made a sign out of Post-it notes. You can't really see it as well as I hoped you would, but it says, "Bye, Felicia," in Post-it notes. So let's all just take a brief moment and appreciate the 2 minutes that I took of my time to make that sign. So, anywho, oh my goodness, Coral, love you. Peace, Proctor, FKR, Free Karen Reed. Indeed, Coral. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being in the chat. I love your stinking guts. Got it? Got it. Okay, cool. So, let's get on with it. Adios, Proctor. And our first guest who has made it in tonight is Miss Lacey Jane. Please be extremely welcoming to her as this is her first time on the Brit Happens show. Woo!
Yes! Let's go.
Hey, girl, hey!
How
Yeah,
are
so
ya?
glad to have you. Doing good. How are you today?
I am just swell. I am super happy to be here. So thank you for having me. And hi, chat. I am so happy to see you guys here. Yay!
Me too. And then we have another guest backstage, someone who has been, I'm going to quote Mean Girls, personally victimized by Michael Proctor. Please, 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 everybody, put your hands together and hit the like button for my dear friend, Jen Root.
Hi.
Hello.
Jen!
On her phone today.
Oh, it's so great to see Jen. Oh, hi. How are you, girl?
I'm doing
Do
all
you know
right. I
Lacey?
mean, yes, I've actually been on her show, which was fun because I
you
never
know what?
have
I
done one of
remember
those
that.
Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. You were on her Twitter space telling Just On's story, and I listened to it because that was right when you and I first started contacting one another when we first got connected.
Yeah.
That
Well, it's
is
good to see you here.
fantastic.
Well, what a
good to
good day, huh? Proctor.
What a great day.
Indeed. We're going to name it a holiday. It's official. March 19th is Proctorless Day.
Are we
Proctorless
going
Day.
on our Google calendars and putting that in?
I already did. It's in my
Okay,
Apple
all right.
calendar.
I'm below.
I think this is a good start. This is a good start.
Okay.
Agreed.
You know,
and then I
we-
want to introduce to you guys one more guest, his very first time on the Brit Happens show. So y'all be nice and show him around. Please give the superest, duperest, and warmest of welcomes to Brian LTL.
Brian
Hello.
LTL.
Hey.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey.
How are
Happy
you?
Proctorless Day.
It's Proctor Day.
Yes.
Yeah. I made signs out of Post-it notes. I put bows around. We didn't have a lot of time, okay? It was just announced this morning, but I did what I could. So how are you guys feeling knowing that not only did this happen, period, like it could have just not happened. They could have come back, very much like they did with a lot of the just en route findings and said, well, we investigated our and found nothing wrong, right? But they also did it before the trial. I mean, what a shock, right?
That was super surprising. That was not on my bingo card. I don't know about you guys, but like I thought that it would happen after, like the day after, as in what happened with his like him getting put on suspension or whatever right after the trial happened. I don't know about you guys though.
I mean, I certainly thought they were going to kick the can down the street so they wouldn't have to say in open court that Proctor lost his job for how he handled his business, right? What about you, Brian? What are your initial thoughts with all that?
Yeah, I thought the timing was weird. My phone blew up like dynamite this morning. I was like on my way. I was like literally just getting into the gym and it's like text message. Like all my contacts start reaching out and I'm like, what the hell? I have like 8 text messages and it's like every text message is Trooper Proctor was fired. Trooper Proctor was fired. And they're clipping Christina Rex's tweet. I think she was probably the first one that got it out. And I thought the timing is really weird, but the positive thing about this is this, and we got to look at it this way. What happens with police officers when they testify? They get things that are called qualified immunity. Now, he's no longer, I don't want anybody saying Trooper Proctor anymore. He's now just Michael Proctor. He's a regular citizen. So he doesn't have all those perks of being a trooper or a police officer anymore. All that's taken from him. It's stripped of him. Now he's just a regular citizen where he's got a lot more hard-hitting, what's the word I'm looking for? Consequences that could hit him.
Yeah.
And but again, the timing is odd, and I'm waiting tomorrow. I super show tomorrow, and I really want to hear from Todd McGee. He'll be on my show tomorrow, and him and I exchanged some text messages today, and I want to hear his initial thoughts on this and about the timing of it. But I don't know, and maybe I throw my crazy conspiracy theory out there. Maybe the Commonwealth is just like, we're not going to win. Like they have a crazy defense team. We're not going to win this. And let's just start throwing stuff out the window. So I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe this is part of the white flag that they're going to start waving. I think the Reed team is going to be absolutely 100% double prepared this time around. I think the Commonwealth has a lot of problems this time around.
And Jen, this is a personal one for you and for your family.
It is.
Do you want to go?
I mean,
I
mean, my family and my dad, we exchanged some messages today. I had my phone blew up too, but from lots of different friends that I haven't heard from in a long time who all just remember Michael Proctor's name. And just saying, did you hear? I'm like, I literally saw Christina Rex's text. It maybe was 45 seconds. I don't know why I was like on and I saw it and I'm like, oh my gosh, hold on, wait, is this real? You start Googling and then I start looking around because I'm like, I don't know. But let's put it this way. I think the timing is definitely interesting. One would think that they would wait till after trial. So, but I also, am a little apprehensive, like, is he going to try to, appeal this? Because a lot of times that people do, and they get into their, union contract, and you start to see the complications in that. And also, it's just like, I hope it's not going to just end with him. He can't just be the only, you know?
Sure.
And I feel like sometimes with the media or the mainstream media, it's like, oh, we took somebody and they're being responsible. And then the next thing you know, it's like everybody thinks it's just going to get wiped away. I'm like, here to tell you, no, we cannot let that happen. And that's like kind of one of the reasons why we're going to do a standout at Michael Morrissey's office on Friday. So like in 2 days from 2 to 4 p.m. because we want to make sure that he knows. I actually am going to take one of the names because I have this sign that says bye-bye, like Proctor, Buchanan, and Fanning. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to like take a big red line across Proctor, like, all right, who's on that
That's a good one.
block?
Check them off.
We definitely don't want it stopped there.
You know what's really interesting in all of this too is that since Colonel Noble has been appointed and was appointed colonel from Maura Healey, we really haven't heard much from him. And this is kind of the first thing that he comes out and does. And I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of it is public pressure too. And the non-mainstream media really plugging into this and saying like, look, you're not doing your job. I call him out on my show all the time. Like, you're not doing your job. Like, what about Trooper Enrique Delgado Garcia? We haven't heard anything. It's been 6 months. And, you know, this guy needs to start stepping up and cleaning this up because firing Michael Proctor is not going to just make all of the other things that have gone on just go away. I mean, they need a blanket slate clean of you know, to really rip through this department and really clean it up. People need to go. Tully should have went. Buchanan should have went. They all should have gone. Yeah, Fanning.
Tully is next.
I don't know. He was already rehomed. I think they might call that enough for now.
I'm
not sure.
That'll be interesting.
And does Proctor go to the post now to get decertified, or they just decertify him? I'm not sure how that all
I'll be able
works.
to ask Todd that tomorrow, Jen.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, Jen, just email me and I can ask Todd tomorrow.
Yeah,
I asked him today, I was like, do you want to make a public comment? Because I was going to put an article together. It's like, do you want to? He's like, I need to kind of just digest everything for 24 hours because it's crazy. And he's like, I want to hear the chatter that's going to happen. And he's like, we'll talk about it tomorrow. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah. Well, I love what all three of you guys have said. Where hopefully the buck doesn't just stop with Proctor in the eyes of the Commonwealth. I mean, we have in writing that some of these atrocious things that were said about Karen, about the case, were not just to family and friends, as Elizabeth stated. Some of it was to his own superiors.
Exactly.
Who at that time should have said, excuse me, we are investigating the death of a fallen officer, and this is not the time nor the place for locker room talk. And you need to conduct yourself accordingly. I mean, at no point was he admonished. They, in fact, reacted. You can actually press on a message and send a reaction to somebody else's message, and they all seemed to react in the affirmative of the atrocities. So I was
tells us that's how they roll.
Mm-hmm. Tully was on vacation in the Outer Banks. My dad lives in the Outer Banks. There's definitely cell reception. I know that dude was checking his phone like, shut up, stop, get out of here.
Can I read a tweet from Aiden really quick if people haven't heard it? And
love it.
So it says Aiden Carney just tweeted at 9:46 p.m. and said, tomorrow's going to be interesting. Karen Reed and I will be sitting together at the defendant's table in the main courtroom at 9 a.m. in front of Judge Doolin. Hank Brennan is interceding in my case for the Rule 17 motion from my phones. After that, the hearing will move into the smaller courtroom for motions hearing with Auntie Bev.
Wow. Okay, I'm pulling this up on the screen, guys, so we can.
I saw that right before we came in here.
Yeah,
isn't that wild?
I was busy making stupid signs with Post-it notes. as a salute to Chief Rafferty. So I did not see this. Let's get this up on the screen. Y'all bear with me. I'm working on a laptop here, so. Okay. Can you guys see that okay?
Of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to give the chat a chance to look at that. So Karen Reed and I will be sitting together at the defendant's table. So they'll be together at one table.
It's wild.
In the main courtroom at 9 a.m. in front of Judge Doolin. Brennan is interceding in my case for a Rule 17 motion for my phones. After that, the hearing will move into the small courtroom for motions hearing with Auntie Bev. Wow. Yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting.
Oh, wow. Karen was very active on Facebook today. So I don't know if you're friends with her on Facebook, but she, what song is this? I want to play it. I want to get demonetized, but she put something about Michael
I have
Proctor.
it turned off. Don't worry.
Yeah, Michael Proctor, she put something up on her Facebook about Michael Proctor today on her story.
Good.
I'm sure
So,
it's
good
something
stuff.
fitting.
Yes.
We've been trying to think of a theme song for Morrissey.
Let's do
For a while.
Domino. Remember Domino dancing? That's all I've been hearing in my head all day. Domino
Just
dancing.
one falls down. Yeah.
It just is keep going on in my head. I'm like, let's just watch the ball.
I don't know about you guys. I can personally say that I have, my mom has been watching my streams for however long I've been doing them. She never really understood like the ins and outs of the trial with Karen Reed. She had a lot of questions. And even though this documentary was not, apparently, I haven't watched it yet, not in the most favorable light. My mom was like, I literally understand why you're doing what you're doing. This is insane. I can't believe the people of Massachusetts aren't more upset about it. And I was like, don't lump them all together. A lot of people are upset about it. But I just wanted to say that I thought that was really interesting. Something I got to call her today while she was at work and be like, Mom, you're never going to believe this. Michael Proctor was fired. And she had only heard of him like last night on a few of my streams. And she's like, thank God. What an asshole.
And she had only known about him for what, 24 hours?
Yeah, and hearing about him on my streams, like here and there. But I thought that was an interesting perspective. I just wanted to point out. I mean, you can't just cover shit with, powdered sugar and say it's a joke. So
certainly not. Certainly not. So do you think that this new development with Brennan and Karen and Aiden, do you think this is something that's been coming for a while, or do you think this is maybe due to something that's just come up in the past week? Because there has been a lot that has happened in the past week or so.
I personally, I'll go first. I think that this is something that Brennan has been brewing because the Commonwealth knows they have nothing. So they're just going to try to use every little thing to their advantage right now. And, look, they're trying to get Aiden's phone to see what kind of conversations that him and Karen were having. I mean, strictly, it's none of their business. I mean, he's a journalist. He's has a story. They have the right to talk to each other. He has the right to free speech, just like we all are right now on this panel and giving our opinion and talking. We can do that. We can write about it. We can talk about it. So I think this time around, the Commonwealth is just trying to silence everything. But the funny thing is that there's so many people that are involved with defending Karen. You're not going to be able to shut all of us down. So I mean, we're all going to keep talking. And I'm going to tell you, Aiden's smart, so he'll probably find a way to keep talking, even if they do try to shut him down.
Even
like when he was in jail, he had people like you and Will
and there was still people blogging for him. He was writing. Yeah. He was writing in jail, and they would print it. So I mean, it's not going to stop.
I love that.
It's going to keep going.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always admired about Aiden. You know, is that even to his own detriment, he's, you know, if it's a cause that he believes firmly in, he's definitely going to, you know, keep speaking out about it. And I've always been a very big supporter of the First Amendment. So I'll be standing behind Aiden, and I don't care what anybody else thinks of him. You know, none of this is right, whether it's somebody you like or somebody you don't. What's happening right now should not be happening in America.
I agree. 100%.
Oh,
it's embarrassing.
Look who just came in. Hey, Jason.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, hey, what's going on?
How's it going? Jason. Nice to see you. Yeah, I've actually been listening for a while, and I think everyone's making some really good points, especially on the First Amendment aspect. You know, I was listening to Aiden's hearing live, and I actually messaged him that I don't think I've ever been so mad in my life than to hear Cosgrove come out and he just directly attacked the First Amendment. It was it was unfathomable. I actually wanted to attend, and I couldn't. I had an appointment that I had to go to, and I was sitting in a room full of people with my earbuds in, watching on my iPad, and I must have had people looking at me like I was crazy because I was yelling at my iPad. And at one moment I caught myself, and I'm like, I'm in public, like I probably shouldn't be watching this here, because I was so angry. And it's really interesting, his latest tweet now talking about Hank tomorrow, because I didn't realize until we all know Microdots Richie is such a great guy.
Yes.
And he posted kind of a highlight clip of Hank and Alan Jackson going at it in court over Hank basically was accusing Alan Jackson, and Alan got the chance to come back and say, just be a professional. But what Hank said in that clip was amazing to me, because he was talking about Aiden's case, and he said, you know, later on today in another courtroom, in another case, we have a motion, and he used the word we, and no one knew at the time that he was talking about Aiden's case.
Yes.
And it struck me as the craziest thing, because we saw this situation all the way back from when Ken Mello was the special prosecutor before Cosgrove took over, where they made these big overtures that nope, this was an independent special prosecution, and there was no coordination with the district attorney's office. Ken Mello said in an interview with Jess Machado that no, I don't have any coordination with them. This is completely independent, and I make all of the decisions in this. And they said it in open court several times. And now here we have Hank in the Karen Reed trial openly admitting in court, we have a hearing in another courtroom. Talk about coordination. This is supposed to be an independent prosecution, and now here we go. We see tomorrow he's trying to intervene again.
Jason, what they're trying to do is weaponize Aiden against Karen. It's absolutely what they're trying to do.
Oh, of course.
They're just gonna lump all this in and then go, and there he is, you know, and they're trying to do that shit. There he is right there. You know, he's out there and he's intimidating the witness. Like, no, he's just being a journalist and asking questions, and what he's doing is like protected under the First Amendment, you know.
It's a fundamental right as an American citizen. So,
and a grand jury already looked at this aspect of witness intimidation, right? But they're going to try and shoehorn it in any single way that they can. And I think that I've been wrong about this a lot of times, but I think that Bev is not going to go for it in the Karen Reed case. We don't know what's going to happen in Aiden's case. I don't think she's going to go for it, because I think it's too prejudicial, it's too biased, and they had their crack at the apple with that grand jury, and the grand jury did not. And let's talk about that. Like, we know grand juries, they're a rubber stamp, right? We hear it all the time. They
Yeah,
basically
very low standard.
right. They feel like they're on the same team as the DA. You know, that's their coworker, and they come in. It's rare for them not to be able to get an indictment, but here we are.
And you know, and it's funny, Britt, because you asked the question, did you feel like it was something like this week they did? No, because go back and listen to like the last couple. This has been brewing because the last couple of hearings, Hank has been bringing up Aiden's name a lot.
Yeah,
and I knew they were going to try to do something like this. I like just felt it in my bones that they're going to try to pull some shit here and try to weaponize Aiden against Karen. But Jason might be right. She might just say no. Because if the grand jury said no, I tend to believe that Bev's going to go along with that as well. So,
well, and imagine how that would look on appeal.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that she at least tries to come up with some reasoning. I think we all know at this point. Maybe you don't all agree with me. I think we all know at this point that she's very clearly biased against the defense, right? But I think she at least cares enough about herself to try and come up with some kind of precedent or some kind of ruling in which she can justify her actions. I don't see how you can bring any of that in and it not be super prejudicial at this point. And I think it's a stretch. So I think that her own self-preservation skills will kick in enough that I think she just wants to ride that line without getting to the point to where it could be used against her,
Yeah. And I mean, perfect example of that is like Arca. Like we all went, oh, and then she's like, no, but I'm going to let them testify because it would have been it would have been so against Karen to not let them testify. I mean, it's relevant information and data in this case.
And contrast that with what we see with Betterer, right? She has much wider latitude in a pro hac vice application to the court than she does in something like we're going to disqualify these expert witnesses. And even then, she still went too far. Her little diatribe with her speech that she gave at the beginning of that about the sanctions and everything else, it was ridiculous. She made findings in court that aren't backed up by fact.
No,
it was very troublesome. But even then, it's a great example because even then she knew where to draw the line, right? She couldn't go as far as she wanted to because if she did, she wouldn't be able. It would be indefensible.
But she was like trembling and shaking, and I was literally like, I think I'm gonna have a heart attack, and I'm gonna like smash the screen because I was like, what is going on? Why was she shaking? And then she starts talking about the sanctions, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no way, this cannot be happening. She's not gonna do this.
Yeah.
Why? And then it's like sidebar, and then it's like, okay, I don't know. Part of me was like, is somebody like forcing this down, or like? You need to go do this.
That is exactly what my thoughts were, Jen. I was like, she is shaking and trembling. And I have this in a text message today from a friend who does not agree with me. And she was like, well, you're not an attorney in Massachusetts. This is my friend who is. And I was like, I got the distinct feeling that she was like trembling and like shaking and the display was all off.
Yeah.
Because she is being force-fed a bunch of crap that she knows eventually is going to bite her in the ass, just not today.
Or, the alternative view, she might have been shaking because she was mad because she couldn't go as far as she wanted to.
Yeah.
So you look at that, but and we also saw that, it's funny that you brought up the shaking because it's not the first time we've seen that. We saw the shaking. We saw the shaking the first time when Hank.
Yeah.
Yeah. When she had the grave concerns, she suspended the hearing. Like I was like, this woman's completely lost her composure. I was waiting for men to break into the courtroom and put her in a white coat and kind of take her out because it's almost unheard of for a judge she knows she's on national TV and she's behaving in such a way that she really didn't comport herself well.
Yeah.
And I frankly was surprised that she didn't, she could have she could have called for a longer recess. She could have never come back from the recess and said, oh, we have to adjourn court for an emergency. She could have done something, but sitting there shaking on the bench, looking like that, I was just like, this doesn't spell good things for your judicial demeanor to sit here and do that,
Right.
When I imagine a judge who during recess gets a call saying, hey, your father has to go in for open heart surgery, or hey, your husband just had a stroke, that is what I see in my mind's eye of a judge returning to the bench. But this was,
In fairness, we don't know how much she likes her husband, so I don't want to use that example.
and I feel like her level of predictability has diminished since the announcement of the federal investigation being closed. After that, her rulings really seemed to intensify, in my view. That's when she started allowing like Jim Crosby and almost ruling against herself in a lot of ways. I mean, she sided when ruling that that Dr. Rentschler couldn't testify as to John O'Keefe's injuries due to the fact that he wasn't a medical doctor. She cited that, and then here we are a year later, and Jim Crosby's allowed to testify.
It's true. Her own words. That was also, it's so strange. You're right, because how do you not, she's not great with every detail. She's like, do you remember what day this was said? Do you remember that? But she has generally got a grasp on things that occurred in the trial and who said what and who did what. And now she's challenging herself because she really was very adamant. And she said, I don't have the exact quote, but paraphrasing, she said in Massachusetts, the law requires that you be a medical doctor. She actually cited to it as if it were maybe it was a rule of professional conduct or something along those lines. And for her to do that, and I could see, like, I think it would be controversial if she said, we're going to bring the witness in and we'll have a Daubert hearing. But she didn't even ask for a Daubert hearing. She just said he could testify. I would be interested to see what happens with that motion, because we know that there's a motion to reconsider that now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I thought that was amazing. Christina makes a good point in the chat too, where she's saying that she forgot that Lally opened the door to the harassment with Allie McCabe. That's so true. Another excellent point, because it really was one of those things where she was adamant about it the other day, and I was sad they didn't catch it in real time and actually challenge it in court, while it happened. But there's so much going on for them to be on top of every single thing that she says. But that would have been a nice point. Also, they may have felt a little bit gun shy, given that they were just reprimanded on national TV for supposedly not having candor with the court, despite Brennan getting away with not having candor to the court every day. But it's crazy.
It's like he can say all these false things, and it's just like, oh, we're gonna let that go.
Yeah, you can get away with it as long as you don't put it in writing to supplement it.
It really is, right. Or when you make a non-objection objection, when you say that we're not going to oppose the pro hac vice admission of Betterow, but the court should ask these questions.
Right.
Oh
So,
like, I just want to do you a favor and make you aware.
Right. If I were a judge, when they said we're not going to oppose this, I would have just stopped them and said, granted, next. You know what I mean? You just move down. But for her to listen and then come back, so she actually, that's what makes that even more controversial, right? Because it was an unopposed motion when a motion's unopposed, it's essentially assented to.
Yeah.
So basically the prosecution did not oppose Mark Betterow's joining the panel admission pro hac vice, and she still denied it. And that, to me, I think, even though she has wide latitude in that area, I have a feeling that when you start to look at, should everything go horribly wrong, which I don't predict it will, but should everything go horribly wrong, and we do need to be talking about appeals, I think that that's one of those things when you start to look at things in the totality, people are going to say, whoa, like, people who have never looked at this case before, when they start to see these things stack up and how the rulings went, and as you moved through trial, it shifted, right? So in the beginning, you win some, you lose some. And now as we get here later in the thing, you lose some, you lose some, you lose some, you lose some, and then you might win one, but then you lose the rest. It's
a net negative.
Yeah, Charlie Lynn.
I want to remind everybody that Hank Brennan is a cagey snake, and he's going to throw so many monkey wrenches at this trial.
Yep.
Just be ready for it.
Mhm.
But you have brilliant attorneys on the other side that are quick. They're quick on their feet, and they're going to be able to counteract anything that Hank's going to throw at them. But he's going to throw a lot of bullshit into this case.
A lot.
I can already feel it
I
because he's
agree.
already playing dirty already in hearings.
Really quickly, I just want to thank New Hampshire Dude 603 for gifting a membership. I appreciate it. So to whoever got the surprise membership, you now have access to some super cool emoji. We've got an LOL that is Helena Rafferty. We've got an unwatteth thine pantaloons emoji. We've got a Jennifer McCabe tell the tooth, the whole tooth and nothing but the tooth emoji. So please enjoy those for the month that it lasts for you. And should you decide you'd like to continue, there are, I'm sure, ways by which you can do that on your own. Typically, it sends you an email letting you know your gifted membership's about to expire. So please consider continuing it. And Meatball Morrissey's Sketty Stain, thank you so much for your niner. He says, how about Auntie Bev being related to Jen McCabe through the late Marjorie Prescott McCabe of Quincy, who passed 3 years ago? I did not know this, but I am from the free state of Florida, and I just care a lot about all this. So is that something you guys have heard?
I haven't heard that yet, but you know, I want to be careful, right? Because we see this. I can tell you that we all see that we go on Twitter, we come here on YouTube, we make our comments and do things, but a lot of us work on stuff behind the scenes. And I can tell you, I've done a lot of work behind the scenes on things like find a connection between this person and that person, right?
Yeah.
Because we're doing this, we're going back. All I can tell you is I don't think we're going to find anything as obvious as this, or that they're, sixth cousins and they didn't know or whatever. I can tell you that there's been a lot of work done both officially and unofficially on people connected to the case and their relationships to other people connected to the case. And I know because I did some of the work myself. So I'll certainly, I'm going to take note of this comment and follow up on it a little bit, but I do know that people shouldn't be quick to jump to conclusions, because there are some things precisely like that where you see like, oh, here's a common name. It's kind of similar to where people were looking at when Sean McCabe talked about the seaside cottage with Auntie Bev and Uncle Frank, and then somebody found a Venmo entry for Bev and Frank on someone else's Venmo, and you look at it, when you look at that, and I don't think that ever panned out to be anything that was provable or even likely correct. The truth is there's a lot of people in the world named Bev, and there's a lot of people named Frank, and there's a lot of people with different names. They're not all necessarily connected.
I know my Frank's listening, so
there you go. See?
And another thing to note is in extremely small towns like this, especially if you have lived there generationally for a long time. Yeah, there are a lot of those kind of, sixth degree connections that
there was a great account on X who was somebody on our side who was anonymous, and I'm leaving their name out of it, but they got exposed at some point, and I was having a conversation with them. I'm a great resource for people who've gotten exposed, as someone who's gotten their identity exposed myself. And I was having a conversation with them about that. And there are 8 people in Canton with the same first and last name, and none of them are related. So the person that got exposed, there are 8 other people with the exact same name, and none of them are related to each other. So you look at that scenario and you're like, oh, especially if it's an Irish name and you're out there in the Boston area, there's a pretty good chance that there's a lot of people with the names that are similar to each other.
My brother always used to joke like that we should change my last name to McMeeks, because then I would always get elected if I ever ran for office. It's like a sure shoe in.
There you go.
Nailed it. nailed it. Oh man. So I want to go back to what we were beginning to discuss with Proctor, and we kind of trailed off, but I'm very concerned, like what Jen mentioned. I'm concerned that Proctor is going to be this sole responsibility holder now for what has happened in not just the Karen Reed case, but also like with Just en Route and all these other cases that are interconnected. But I'm concerned now that they're going to say, after Proctor gets his dishonorable discharge, that he was the problem. It's him. Hi, he's the problem. It's him. And that there won't be any further consequences. Do you guys feel the same way generally, that maybe
Like
they're going to try?
Correct. Yeah.
Almost.
I would love to know Jen's opinion on that. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen. No, go ahead, Jen.
So obviously, for someone who's just watched the wheels of justice go as slow as possible, I'm always, of course, I want everybody to be accountable. I don't want it to just end with Proctor, but just my experience with the system is, I'm not that optimistic, and I feel like they've focused on Proctor a lot, and that's really troublesome to me, because a lot of their activity and the way that they talked, and I mean, it's all like they're rotten. They're all rotten. I mean, and just to focus on Proctor is concern. I mean, I don't know what's going on. Maybe there will be other people. I certainly hope so. But I mean, just realized I talked about Proctor like back in 2021.
Right.
Like two big like officials, like Maura Healey's office, like in her office.
Mm-hmm.
Like to them, and it's like, okay, like here we go. Like, I mean, I knew, and now thank goodness. I mean, but it's a catch-22. Karen Reed shouldn't have had to go through this, but
exactly.
But for some reason, this is how things have unfolded, and I'm happy that at least what I've known for a long time has been exposed.
I have two quick things on that real fast, because one of them is when you look at that, you have to say that they're certainly trying to do this, right? The state is trying to force everything, just like Hank did with the missing Sally Port video. This is on Trooper Proctor. They're going to try to shovel everything in that direction. The difference is, and I think, Jen, you found this now, we're in a different position than we've ever been. They're playing the old PR playbook, but we're in a new media world. Aidan Carney's the best example, where we have now all of these resources. They don't know how to combat the spreading of information that's happening. More and more people are now getting their news from Twitter. They're now getting their news from these Facebook groups. They're getting their news. This isn't, sure, Boston 25 still has some reach, and Channel 7 and all these things, but people are getting their information in a different way. So there's one thing. So I don't think it's going to work necessarily. And as we see, because 2 years ago, Proctor wouldn't have fallen in this kind of scandal, because we would have never heard about it.
Right.
The other thing is Kevin Lenahan had a post today where he basically said that the only reason that Proctor is in trouble and got taken out in this is that Maura Healey was mad at him, so that Proctor was a casualty of the governor's office being upset about the public relations and doing all of these things. And it's like, hello, like, let's ask Brian about Enrique's case, right? Like, they don't care that this is not so I'm sorry to report that Kevin Lenahan is wrong once again. This is not a case where I had predicted in the beginning of this trial so many times, at some point, the political calculations are going to be right. that
Mhm.
it's going to get bad enough that they're going to go into cover your ass mode. They've never done that, and they still didn't do it. They just couldn't cover this one up because it was made public in the texts were read aloud in court, and they did these things. But if they could have covered for Proctor, they would have.
100%.
That's why they took
100%.
as long as they did.
Yeah.
Right.
Brian, I know that you've been going for so long today. Thank you so much for coming.
Of
I
course.
appreciate your time and your presence here. And for everything that you've been doing for the for the state of Massachusetts, for the people of Massachusetts. And anytime you want to come back, you are always welcome. And anytime you just say the word, you'll get a link from me.
No, I appreciate it. Just doing my part like everybody else and trying to fight for everybody. It's a lot of work being it's a lot of work behind the screen, believe me.
And I'm happy you're feeling better, by the way. Sorry.
Thank you. It's a lot of work for everybody. I mean, I was just saying this earlier, and I'm sure everybody on this panel can attest to this too. I mean, it's a lot of emotional up and down. And I believe probably everybody in this chat is feeling the same thing as well too. And I hosted the Discovery ID Karen Reed. I did it kind of as a webinar thing. And, every the last 3 nights. And it was like, I watched the last episode, even though I know that the mistrial is coming, I find myself getting emotional again and kind of reliving all that. And it's like, now we're 2 weeks away and it's like, oh, fuck, we have to go all through this again. Like, and it's just going to be another roller coaster. And believe me, I was talking to a really good friend of mine today and they were saying the same thing. They're like, this is going to be nuts. Like, this is like going through all of this again. But the good thing is that we have everybody that comes to these channels. We have everybody that reads our posts. We have everybody that reads the articles. We have everybody that supports out in front of that courthouse. All the creators that are in this doing their wonderful part to raise money for all these the people that need it, especially Karen, Aiden. I want to start doing some stuff for Enrique and start getting that going. But we all have each other, and that's the most important thing, all of this. So I know we can all rely on each other when we're down. We have that support here to uplift. And, the biggest people that need to be uplifted right now is especially Karen and Aiden as well too. So
absolutely
keep doing your parts. You guys are all amazing. I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity to connect with all of you, the chat and the people on this panel, because I never would have thought that this ever would have happened. And I've made some really great friends through all of this. And I cherish all of you because you all do your part. And I think panels like this are great because it gives us an opportunity to all connect. And I hope we can have more of these throughout the trial.
Yeah, absolutely. This coming Sunday is going to be a Turtle Boy Defense Fund fundraiser on this stream. So if anybody wants to come back, we're going to have Michelle Littlefield.
Nice.
And she's going to tell her story because oh my goodness, she was a victim of Morrissey for sure. And I'll let her kind of tell the rest, but you guys definitely want to make sure that you come back for that. And if any of y'all would like to pop in, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, thank you again, Brian, so much. We appreciate it.
And one last thing before I go, I have another big thing that I'm planning for Enrique. So stand by. I'm not done yet. And
love it.
You thought that billboards were big. We're going to have something even better this time around.
Oh, so, mama.
Hang in there.
You heard it here. All right.
All right. Let's go, Brian. That's badass.
All right, everybody. Have a good night. And I'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you for having me, Britt. And I definitely will come back.
Happy Proctor Day. Cheers.
Yeah, and happy belated birthday, Brian.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
yeah. 18 is good. It feels good to be 18.
I love the hair. You look great. So happy birthday.
We just go backwards. It's fine. It's okay.
What's that?
That's right.
We just go backwards in age.
Yeah, that would be great. Like, what is that movie?
The Mysterious Case of Benjamin Button.
Yes. And that was what who was that? The actor.
That had
Brad Pitt.
I think Kate Blanchett and Brad Pitt.
Yeah, he was Benjamin Button. Interesting. All right, everybody. Thank you so
All
much
right.
for having me. I definitely will come
Good
back.
night.
All right. Take care,
Good
Brian.
night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
And I probably should run soon too, because in case one of my kids is still awake.
Right.
I gotta go check and make sure, because otherwise all of a sudden you'd be
They-
like, it's 11:30. What are you doing?
What do
They
you
love
up
it, right?
to?
They love it. They're like, yeah, just stay on the live streams,
Yeah,
Mom. We
they're
love
like,
it.
yeah, out of sight, out of mind. But I want to just like say to everybody again, like the standout that we're gonna do is a total impromptu. But it's really about coming together and making sure that Morrissey's office knows like we're not going anywhere.
I
And
love that.
Proctor's like, we understand that's just the start.
Mhm.
Right. And so
Here's what I have
it will
to say
be-
about Proctor. I'm just going to go ahead and.
All right, that's it. Dishonor. Dishonor on your whole family. Make a note of this. Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow.
That's what I have to say.
Mulan. Mulan was like the best, in my opinion.
It was a good one. As soon as I saw the dishonorable discharge, that's the first thing that popped in my mind. I'm like, yep, dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow. Dishonor.
That's so funny.
You know that the trooper that was involved with actually shooting Justin was also dishonorably discharged for another case that he had done in February of 2019. Unfortunately, he collects his pension, which is about $8,000 every year,
How do you collect your pension after a dishonorable discharge?
because he had been a trooper for a long enough. But
I think once you're fully vested, you're fully vested. I think that's how the union rules work in Mass.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah. But I want to just say, anybody who's available, come on down. It's going to be a peaceful kind of protest. We want positivity. We want strength. We want unity. And I'm just, pushing the people power. That's what we need. And we're stronger together. And it's 2 to 4 p.m. at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. So that's at 45 Shawmut Road in Canton, Massachusetts. And if you can't make it, one thing that you can do is after work. Yes. It's like, okay, tomorrow, it's like, okay, I got to start doing stuff, pack up some stuff in the car. I'm going to bring a tent just in case we have some rain.
Mhm.
But we are trying to, send a message to our car, like, please don't have rain at that time.
I can't make it because I'm afraid you're going to make me pay for that dent.
Starting emotional, and watching everything. It's just like I feel like I'm always like at the edge of my seat because it's like you just look and you're like, I can't actually believe that this is really happening. This is actually really happening. I'm like, are they really doing this? Like that guy Hank, I'm like.
Yeah.
No, it's just shocking. Everything about it is just completely shocking to me.
And what I hate for you, Jen, is that every LEO who has faced consequences eventually, it's been for a different case and not for yours.
What?
What I hate for you. Are you good? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. What I hate for you in particular, Jen, is that every officer in your case who has had a consequence, it's been for a different case, not for their conduct in your case. It's just been their repeated behavior that eventually caught up to them. Like,
yeah,
Proctor.
I just feel like it's karma. And for some reason, this is how the universe wanted it to unfold. I mean, yeah, I definitely feel like, all those officers to have literally zero consequences for anything. I mean, it all started with the Norfolk District Attorney's Office doing a pathetic, bare bones investigation of their buddies and their colleagues. That's where it started. And so that's where we need to keep the pressure and keep looking
100%.
at that. Because had a real investigation occurred, we would be getting to some accountability, because there are some things you are just like, no. I know. after reviewing all the material. But I mean, part of me, for me, with Karen's case, you know, I feel very connected to it because I've met those dudes and I've had them lie to my face.
Yes.
You know, like
Yes.
Michael Proctor lied to my family, lied to me in my face. Like you know, so I don't know. I just feel very connected with it. And I feel like I've always said this, justice for her is justice for us all.
Yes.
And, you know, someday, somehow, something might come about where there might be some more specifics, you know, about Justin. I welcome that someday. But right now where we're at, and this is a place where I never thought you know, things would get to. Like, I just was like, all right, going on for, you know, 3.5, 4 years. I'm like, I guess. And then, you know, the Karen Reed case happened and you know, things exploded.
Again.
Yeah. Well, it's great seeing you guys, and thanks for having me on.
There's just as many there's just as many blessings, Jen, right? There's just as many blessings in terms of finding Mizzy and the Sandra Birchmore folks and the Karen Reed and all of us coming together. I think everything happens for a reason, and that's one of them for sure.
Yeah, that is definitely, definitely have to say the silver lining in all of this, and the, you know, is the community and the connections, and, you know, there's just so much beauty in us to realize that, you know, there are people who care about humanity and care about justice. And the thing is, we just have to expose it, and we have to keep talking, and we need to just keep sharing so that more and more people know.
Well, I'm sad you're leaving because I thought we were going to do a big.
You know,
I thought we were going to do a big closing number, but like we did last time we were together. But
wait, we're going to sing a song. Oh, we got to sing a song.
Oh,
listen,
yes.
You come to town. You come to town again.
Next
Next
time.
Well, listen, we can like set up. We can find a place with a piano and
live band karaoke. I'm ready.
Live band karaoke, and by the way, that's my plan for my 50th next year. I'm gonna do a live band karaoke, and just so you know, I did it for my 40th. And actually, my 40th. Those are like some of the last pictures that I actually really have of my brother that I liked.
Oh.
So anyway, yeah, but
that's so nice. I bet that was a blast.
He would love to see you doing that again.
He always was like, Jen, you know, you got to sing. And I'm like, okay.
I love it.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Love you, Jen. Thank you for coming.
How can I hang up? Okay. I found it.
I'll take you out.
Last time Jen and I were together, we did end up by, she sang and I played the piano, which wasn't a plan for the night. It was a memorial service they did, a celebration of life that they did for her brother. And I provided the sound system, and then in the hall there was a piano, and one thing led to another, and sure enough, Jen ended up by singing, and Mizzy ended up by singing the song, and it was really great. It was a really great moment. I'm sorry that all of you missed it, and maybe we'll find a way to recreate that again someday. But it was
this is why everybody needs to film themselves as much as Turtle Boy does.
Yeah.
Because Turtle Boy would have gotten it.
Yeah, we need a documentary crew around us.
Yes.
Although the way the documentaries are going, maybe not.
Maybe. Oh, whoops. Sorry, I'm dropping all my stuff on my little side table. Let me go back really quickly to the chat. There are a couple things. I wanted to wait for the panel to not be as crowded before we address these. Okay, so Meatball Morrissey's Sketty Stain came back with another 10. First of all, thank you for your 10. I just want to remind everybody that Jason said that he was going to take note of your comment and look into it. Do you want to address this?
I do.
Okay.
You have my apology because I wasn't intending to cast any aspersions on you at all. I was just saying that It's kind of my practice when I hear things like this, especially when I hear them for the first time, kind of far into these trials or whatever else. I want to take a minute and make sure, because what you wrote sounds very scandalous, and if it's something that's publicly verifiable, it feels like it already would have been addressed. But I'm taking nothing away from you, because you very well may have. Just because I haven't heard of it doesn't mean that it's not true, and I'm definitely going to look into it. My advice was not that people should doubt what you're saying. It's that people should exercise some due diligence when they hear things like that. And so that's how I'm going to approach it. And you know what? I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
I hope so.
But I do apologize if I didn't make that clear enough the first time. I'm certainly not suggesting that you made something up or that you came on here or repeated bad information. I definitely going to look into it some more. So
yeah, it's definitely noted. That's a connection I want to look into myself. And then Lacey, this one's for you. If you want to talk about it, T Wade asks, what are the details on Lacey's fundraising thing for Aiden that was mentioned last week? Is that still happening? Are we going to move it? Do you want to maybe combine yours with mine? Like, what do you think?
That's kind of the thought process right now. That if we can't just all work together, why not? Like, work smarter, not harder. So I think that makes the most sense. And I've been really excited to do this for Aiden and Meredith. I believe so much in what he's doing, and he knows that. Meredith knows that. Oh, look what I have. Look what I have right behind me. Came in the mail.
Love it.
So proud new owner. And yeah, I will have to discuss it a little bit more, because it was just a nonstop week with everything going on in court.
Yeah.
So, and that's partially why I haven't filled everyone in on the nitty gritty details. So, until then, I think that makes the most sense. Why not?
Okay,
right?
then. So the when is Sunday at 7 Eastern. The where is right here on Brit Happens.
And
I will host it.
The how is tax refunds and just living life and giving from your heart, and everything that Aiden does to help make us happy, make us laugh, represent the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in a light that doesn't make you want to cry and think that there's no help for them ever. Like, I think it's someone like Aiden that's gonna get the movement to change. And I feel very strongly about that. So as long as we can get the bad people out and the good people in, I think we are sitting pretty the next couple years. That's all I'll say.
That's just the best advice ever. You know, we really, something's happened that's undeniable when, like I was saying with Jen's case, you know, with Just Don's case and Sandra's case and these people coming together. I don't know if you've seen, but there's been a new person recently who had experiences with the same police officers, the same things. That's a dad whose son was tragically killed, and he's trying to get justice for his kid. And they basically threatened him for posting a flyer with a QR code talking about the case that you know, they said he was violating an HPO. That story's going to be coming out shortly. But we see more and more people. One of these things that's happening is we need to find a way to kind of take the next steps in this, which are people really do need to start paying attention. I just had a post on this yesterday or the day before where it's time to stop like just blindly voting by party. It's time to stop doing things like this, where from a political perspective, people need to start to look at their candidates and understand what their positions are and where they are on this, because this stuff isn't going away. This is really happening. And I always say that I approach all of this as a police supporter because I generally am a police supporter, but police accountability needs to be at the forefront because
Mhm.
I have a lot of friends who are good cops who cannot open their mouths without fearing that they're going to lose their careers, that they're going to lose their jobs. In some cases, they have to worry about, are they going to get appropriate backup in a dangerous situation? They could potentially lose their lives. Like, so we have these
You're so
scenarios where I speak a lot of my focus on police accountability and speaking out is on behalf of my friends who are cops who just really can't do it. And some people will criticize them for that or whatever else. But
Mhm.
they have families, they have kids, they have things. If I'm in a position that I can help them by helping get rid of some of the bad people or do things, and I'm all for that. So this isn't a traditional political issue where you have to be a member of a certain party or you have to believe things or do that. It's time to start to take the things that divide us away and say
100%.
this can be one thing that unites us, regardless of whether you support
Keep
the
talking.
Democrats or the Republicans or whatever else. Keep these conversations out there because the government needs to know it's not going to work anymore. You're not going to just be able to divide us away. And
Mhm.
if I'm right leading, then all of a sudden I can't say anything about police officers because if I say something about a bad police officer, well, I'm just anti-cop or I'm this. I'm not.
No.
But it's time for us the reason that people like Morrissey and people like all of these political players right on down to the colonel of the state police and all of these other the reason they get away with this is that they just keep us focused on fighting each other. And what
Yep.
has happened here that's unique, sure, we have a group of trolls that are smaller in number than anybody knows because they all have 10 accounts, right? But we have this dedicated group of trolls who are out there supporting them. Almost all of them have a way to be like related to you find out they're related to the case or the people in the case in some way. But we really have these people that come together. I have people that would probably have blocked me 10 times over because our differences in political views that I consider to be among now the best people that I interact with on Twitter or different places, because this has been a really unifying issue where we've been able to move beyond the kind of the traditional things that divide us. So I'm really excited about that aspect of this.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, please keep going. Keep
one
going.
other thing that I wanted to mention when Brian was here when he was leaving, was he talked about the support of the community. I've heard we have a lot of people that are out there that will come and criticize you and they'll say, oh, you guys are probably happy that there was a mistrial. You're probably happy that this is continuing because you content creators, this gives you something to talk about and you're grifters and you're doing all of this stuff. I don't know a single person because let's lift up the curtain for a minute. I don't know a single person that I've talked to behind the scenes that's like, this is great. Like now we have another 6 months of things to talk about. Like I've never been
No.
amongst more genuine people who literally are out here trying to change something and trying to defeat an injustice. And I would be glad to never have to come on a live stream again and talk about something happening like what happened to Jen's brother or what happened to John O'Keefe or Karen Reed or Enrique. You know what I mean? Like I wish I was talking about Blake, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Like that's what I wish I was talking.
Right.
What an amazing story that is, right? But I wish those were the things that we had to talk about, that we could do that, because this stuff we're talking about stuff that's life and death, and
This
it's
is
serious.
Orwellian. It is the antithesis of America.
Yep.
I mean, and Jason, you know of what I have personally invested of, my own, I have invested a lot in being able to be part of this community and being able to contribute in whatever way that I can. I'm sure every one of us, even, we even know of people who haven't accepted a dime. Honestly, those people, the people who are accepting anything, it's getting put back toward these causes. Like, be assured that in some form or
100-fold.
fashion, it is being given back to the causes that we are sitting here talking about. It's being donated to the families. It's going toward, like, Will, for example, he traveled. Think of how much it must cost him to travel to and from Massachusetts. He flies from Tennessee, almost every other hearing, it
I'll be
seems.
there in May. I was just writing that in the chat.
Mhm.
Like, if anyone is there locally, Jason, you already know I'll contact you. But
Mhm.
I finally got the okay today from the person that I needed to get the okay from. So, and not the big
Yeah.
man, the other person. So,
Jason has saved me Uber money, like, to
It's
come
true,
up and
yeah.
be part of the movement. Like, it has
It's
been,
true, yep.
again,
I'm thrilled and honored. I want you to be able to be there, Brittany, if you can.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm gonna do everything I can.
Yes.
I don't know at what point in the trial, I'll be able to go up there. And that's simply because I've got a very good friend getting married. I'm her maid of honor. So I
Oh,
absolutely have to be there for those things. So
yeah.
once I know a little more of when this is happening, how long I have to be there, how much PTO I need to take, all this stuff, then I can start looking into how to get up there and when I can.
Well,
Jen,
and it
Jen just said she has American Airlines miles. She can book you a flight, and I have a place. So, and I will send you personally the dates.
and I'll happily pick you up at the airport again. So,
Jason will make me not have to buy an Uber.
I
I appreciate
my
that.
roommate will not mind you crashing with me. So,
Okay.
I can tell you that right now, and we'll have a blast. I'm not
It'll be
going
a
very
great
long.
girls trip plus Jason.
Yeah.
well, I used to be a girl for a brief period of time, so I can.
I hope someone clipped that. That shit was
They will. It's
Ah.
fine.
Yeah.
That's the trolls late. Actually, the trolls' latest thing now is they're now treating me forever. Their big thing was, you aren't a girl, you aren't a girl, you aren't a girl. And now that I say I'm not a girl, they keep referring to me as she on purpose. And they keep so they're saying now
Whatever
that I'm
floats your
transgender. And I'm
boat,
like, I
people,
don't care.
whatever.
Like, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, thanks.
No,
I think
right?
people should be who they are. So if you want to call me a girl, go ahead. I'm all right with it. It's like when they call me gay. Go ahead, call me gay. I don't care. Like, sounds good. It's not an insult.
Yes, Amy, I was at the meal of food.
Oh,
And
Amy,
yes,
I remember you.
There were a lot of people, and there was a lot about that meal of food that kept us from all being able to meet with each other. We weren't able to sit and mingle all together, so it was kind of difficult.
I was looking, this was about 3 months ago. I was looking for a place for like about 50 people to be able to meet up in, that was close to the courthouse. I wanted it to be like within 5 minutes. And apparently it's like all O'Keefe territory. And everywhere that I looked, because I was like, I would love to host a fundraiser. I would love to do like an appreciation thing. And I was really disappointed to hear that. So if you are in Dedham and you own a ginormous home and you can get a porta potty or something like that,
like a privately owned
please
restaurant,
contact
Banquet
me.
hall, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
yeah,
the truth
I
is
mean,
it's
banquet hall would be ideal, but I've
similar.
asked that because I've tried so many places.
Well, I'll provide a sound system. That's always my contribution to these things. So if I need to do that, if you get the rest worked out, I'll take care of that piece. But I think that similar to where I was talking about how the cops have problems, like people who own businesses, like the people who have stood up, like when you have like Rich Schiffer, who was putting stuff on his signs there in Canton, and you have Colleen O'Neill, where she's got her issues with Canton and things like that. The people who stand up and speak publicly, there's a certain amount of bravery required in that, because they're going up against police in their communities who we know are corrupt. You know what I mean? And they're in this, and you look at Canton, and Canton is loaded. Canton is well known as being the suburb that people move to from BPD and from police departments around the area. It's like a cop enclave. So when you're standing up and speaking out in those places, you really have to be brave. It's not as brave for me to drive there. And I had a great conversation with Peter Murphy out in front of the Canton Police Department the last time that I was down there. And we went and had a conversation on the sidewalk. It's not as brave for me to drive there because I get to get in my car and leave. But he lives there every day. He's a former police officer, and he goes and stands out in front. And I don't want to tell his stories or give anything away, but what I can tell you is that he takes one of the things they do when they're out in front of the Canton Police Department is they're doing the big trucks go by. They're trying to get them to honk their horns, and they're getting the cars. They just want to make sure that when Chief Rafferty sits up there in that corner office and she hears that horn of the car go by and beep, that she knows that those are her neighbors and the people that live in Canton who are beeping when they drive by in support of what's happening.
Yeah.
So I had another interesting experience because diagonally across the street, Tim Albert lives there, and Chris Albert was at his house while we were there, and a box of subs came from D&E Pizza for lunch, which was interesting because right before I went to the police station, I was downtown and nobody was at D&E Pizza. Nobody was there. So I said, this is lunchtime in a downtown like restaurant or whatever. They should be at their busiest. There was nothing happening at D&E Pizza. And then the only activity, and then the only activity was seeing a box of subs show up for Chris and Tim Albert while they were working on rebuilding his house from the mysterious attic fire. Interesting, but
very, very. To piggyback off of what you said about, people who support this movement not necessarily being, anti-law enforcement. What I hope a lot of people understand about what Jason has said, and I've also, I've touched on this show.
I've been quiet. I don't want to overstep my boundaries.
Right. It is so important that we look at issues individually, the same way that we look at people individually or parcels of an institution individually. There's no institution that is perfect. There is no system that is perfect. And it is out of love for my law enforcement, for my country, and for my fellow citizens that I do this. It is because I don't want there to perpetually be a wedge driven between law enforcement and the community or certain segments of the community. I don't want that wedge driven there. I want there to be a level of trust that we all can have in our police, in our military, and in our government. And when you have things like this that make it to where we can't trust each other, then you're going to have a lot of the, broader issues that we see right now. So, it's extremely important that we hold our authorities to a higher standard.
100%.
Yeah, whatever authority that may be.
And I think that's important. And I have to say, even being in Canton and being in front of the police department and doing that, several of the cops, they wave to us when they pull out. They're not all bad. Even in Canton, in the land of police corruption, right? They're not all bad. Several of them wave to us and they give you a smile when they drive by, and they don't want to be a part of this. They don't want to be in the middle of all of this garbage.
Who wants to work for a department who's disguised by this? That's no fun. Like that doesn't help their career aspirations. So I totally believe that. And Brian LTL has even said before, like, he'll have people like not on camera who'll be like, keep it up. Like, I don't know if it's Canton, but they're police officers that are close to where this is going on. So,
Yeah, I get the same thing. And Scott McGinnis, that's a great point. It's clearly in the beginning of this, I give people the benefit of the doubt longer than most. And people would be like, right from the first day, Bev is corrupted. She has to go and this stuff. And I'm like, well, she's a judge and she's got to follow these rules. And like,
Yeah,
I thought people were overreacting, but I will say that her behavior throughout the just watching her progress through her own
right.
things to where we are now, and it's just like that lady needs to look in the mirror, because forget all of us saying she needs to be recused, and she should recuse herself at this point. She should recognize that she can no longer impartially sit on this trial. Like it can't happen. But just to reverse to my point about Canton for a minute, it was kind of a fun game while I was there. We didn't keep exact statistics, but we kept track of how many people waved or beeped versus how many people wouldn't, to get kind of a gauge of what people felt like. So in addition to the police was about 50-50 as they were pulling in and out, but the people driving by, it was about 80% of the people driving by would wave or beep, and 20% of the people wouldn't. And out of those, maybe half of them would glare at you. So you'd actually get you could see the people that were ambivalent, that just didn't care what you were doing. And then you could see the faces of the people, they would make eye contact and they glare at you.
Yeah.
Got flipped off maybe 5 times or 10 times, things like that. But it is interesting. So they know, the people that are there, they know.
It was probably Mama driving Jen around with a wig
It could
on.
be, yeah. I didn't see her. No, the good news is when you're out there with the guys that do this, when you're out there with the Dennis Sweeneys and you're out there with the people that do this every day, that go stand out in front of the Canton Police Department several days a week and do all these things, those guys are so local. They know. They know so many of the people driving by. That's how I knew Chris was at his brother's house across the street. I didn't see him, but I knew he was there. Like, oh no, he's driving this car today. That's his car. Like, they just know these things because they're there every day and they see what they drive. The people, it's their neighbors that are driving by them on the street. They know it, and they're like, oh, that's so-and-so, her cousin's this person, and that's why she gave you a dirty look, because you know what I mean? So it really is kind of funny. It's really interesting people watching when you're sitting there, because these people, they know everything about everything about what's happening around them, interesting.
Yeah. We do, but I mean, you're right. It is like an overwhelming minority of not just Canton, but I would say, the entirety of
the interweb,
the globe that's watching, who sees this. And I mean, every self-respecting government official, self-respecting attorney who is not directly involved, who has actually decided to render an opinion, they've all had some common denominators here, which is that, Karen Reed did not receive a fair trial, and Officer John O'Keefe did not get a thorough investigation.
Amen.
At end of story. That's that common thread amongst all of them.
Amen. And it's not just, people will say, oh, well, those are law tubers and they're doing it because they're grifting. But even when you would see like Vinnie Politan have attorneys on the panel, people that aren't on social media, even non-law tubers, we generally know, right? Like if you go to Twitter and you're there, I can predict who's going to comment on almost every single tweet, right? Like I know these are the antis that are going to comment on this. I bet you I could do this where I could be like,
visualize.
I'm going to write a tweet. I can plan a tweet ahead of time by knowing who it's going to piss off. Like I'm going to write this tweet and I'm going to get a comment from Karen's angry tampon on this tweet. Like I know it's going to happen.
GPT will help you with that.
Right. So it's true. I probably could ask them, target this person, but we see all these people, but in the stuff that we've seen for like some of the people who are watching it on ID, I've been a little bit worried about this documentary on ID, right? Because now we're going to have more people, more crime people that may not have even heard of this case yet watching it. And what are they going to think? And I've seen some people who I don't recognize, and they're not new accounts, that will post on it. And they say things like, I've seen them say like, oh, Karen smirked at the camera, so I think she's guilty. But what I also see in the comments are other people who must also be watching this on ID where I don't recognize their names, and they're defending
Mhm.
her. They're saying like, oh no, actually like this, like I watched them go in and I'm like, wait, I don't know any of these accounts. Like these accounts that are pro Karen Reed that are here and they're answering these people. It's really surreal because let's face it, for the last year, we see them refresh their troll accounts every now and
Yep.
then, but the same people are here. But now I'm seeing people where, yep, they've got a couple more people on their side from this skewed presentation that's happening on Discovery, but so many more people are watching it.
I haven't watched the totality of it, but like, I had ingrained in my head that it was going to be like really, really bad.
Because the rest of them have.
Well,
Yeah,
I watched the first two, which is what most people did because they were released simultaneously.
That's what I did.
I'm told from people, my text messages were going off today. I've been told from people that it gets worse. So we'll see.
I mean, I know that Karen and her team isn't watching it. So that is in and of itself. I told my mom that.
Well, it doesn't, and it's smart, right? Because it doesn't matter. Like they shouldn't watch it, frankly, because it's not their. They have bigger fish to fry.
I had a conversation with someone recently that I don't listen to negativity out there because I know that like it's not going to help anything. Like
right,
it's not going to help free Karen Reed. So
having made it 52 years, sometimes people want to make fun of me for being bald or because I have a lisp or because of like if you met my friend group, like we've been making fun of each other for 50 years, some of them, you know what I mean? And like, if you give me a really creative insult, I'm probably going to like you because my brain is wired to like, oh, this is how I talk with my friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no one's thought
nice
this
to
one.
Haley. I was just really nice to Haley. That's how I got Jason's like friendship.
No, the funny thing is too, though, that's the other thing. I pretty much, even to this day, if people either DM me on Twitter or they leave a comment and ask a question or do things like that, right from the beginning, I've just always tried to, if I think someone's being sincere and sincerely asking me a question or they don't know something, I've just always tried to answer. I just always try to communicate with people. And if they ask me a question, I try to give them my opinion or, oh yeah, look for this. Or do you know who said this at trial? I just try to answer because it's just common courtesy. And I have met a lot of people that way. And Lacey, when you and I first started talking, it was that you just reached out to me and you started asking me some questions about the case. Yeah. So I'm like, let me tell you what I know,
Yeah, like it just be nice. Just be nice.
And I'm not known for always being nice, but I'm always nice up front. Or I'm usually nice up front. And then we'll see.
Yeah, you give people, like you said, the benefit of the doubt. You see the good in people right away. And I've noticed that in both of you.
Even the trolls, though, to be honest with you, like even if first of all, like I get this one a lot, like people get really offended that I called them moron, right? It's a word I use a little bit too often. And people get offended by that. But like, again, I call myself a moron and I call almost every one of my friends a moron. So like by me calling you a moron,
it's
like if that really is what you're throwing out there, it's like, please just clip this. If I called you a moron, it doesn't mean I don't like you. It doesn't mean it means nothing. It literally is just me pointing out that I disagree with what you're saying, or I think you're being ridiculous, or I do these things. But I have a really hard time being offended by people who I don't care about either way. Mm-hmm. So like when these trolls come at me, even if I come at you pretty hard, if you come at me the next day and you ask me a sincere question or you do that, I'll generally engage with them because I just don't care. Like They're not going to upset me. They call me fat, and I'm like, yeah, my entire life I've been going for fat, dumb, and happy, and I'm 2/3 of the way there. Like, it's exciting. You know? Like, I just don't care.
He says fat, bald, and happy.
Yes.
And now he's lost weight, and like he's like, I don't know.
I always like that when people call you fat.
Still fat, still happy.
There you go.
I always like that when people would call me fat, and I say, I may be fat, but I can go on a diet, and
you'll be ugly forever. Yeah.
You'll be ugly forever. You're ugly on the inside. There's nothing you do about that,
Yeah, I've heard that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I just don't like. For me, it's just like this happened once on a stream, and I said about the trolls, like, oh, how you get me is by telling me I'm ineffective, and the next day every tweet was, you're so ineffective and you're doing these things, and I'm like, I left out the other part. I have to care about your opinion for that to work. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like, I just told you all to dance and you did, you morons. There you go.
What? That is absolutely valid. That's what I was thinking. Like, you were like the puppet master, and they came into form, and they did what they thought would upset you with intention, which is like first-degree murder, but on X. Like,
I'm actually glad you said that too, because I still do work with a lot of youth. I interact with a lot of kids in different circumstances and go through that. And one of the things that I always try to teach them is you really do need, because we have another problem. That's one problem, right? Where these people try to attack you. It shouldn't matter, because if someone you don't value their opinion said something horrible about you, well, you already didn't value their opinion, so why do you care? On the flip side, as a society, we have this problem where people are so they're so prone to being offended. Like, it's like they're looking to be offended, like they're waiting for each next opportunity to be offended out there. And I just think, like, you really should consider people's intent. Like, so I always try to teach these kids, like, someone said something to me and that made me so upset, or that made me so mad, and I'm like, oh, do you think they did that on purpose? Well, no. And I'm like, well, then why are you mad? Because you have these things where if people aren't trying to get you, like, you don't need to let people into your headspace to do that.
This is a good one, Lisa. Thank you. Yeah.
I love Lisa. She knows that.
I think we all do. She also knows that
I come up, and I was like,
yeah. Okay, Milady. Yes, we did cover this already. I don't know if you maybe want to go back toward the beginning, maybe like 5-10 minutes in to the stream. But yes, we did cover this topic.
Shoot, I need to get going here in like the next 5 minutes.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
sorry. No, go ahead.
I was like, oh crap.
I should have warned you. That's the danger of going onto a Brit Happens stream. It ends up going like twice as long as we intended to go.
I love that for you guys.
That's what happens when you're around friends, right? You just talk and you lose track of time and things happen,
Exactly.
Yep. I have a lot to say on that, but yes. Britt will be on my show soon. We are
Monday-ish.
Monday-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Hey Frank, I'm having a show on Monday.
One of the days that ends in Y.
And then tomorrow.
Oh, here it is. This is always my favorite. This is what Lacey doesn't know. The only reason that I continue to talk to her is because when she snorts, it makes me laugh every single time. So I'm like, every time Lacey wants to talk to me, I'm just gonna say yes, because I then make myself laugh by making her laugh. So
my face hurts. Not used to smiling.
Oh man.
Okay.
Well, then keep coming back, Lacey.
I would love to. And tomorrow I will be on with Happily Angry Lawyer. And I feel
awesome.
like he and I will get along actually very well. Like,
yeah,
I'm happy and angry at the same time. So
I've had some interactions with him in the tweets, and I like it when people show up and they immediately add value. You know what I mean? And he's one of those people that showed up, obviously, after late in the game and immediately added value because you were like, oh yeah, these tweets are great, his takes are good. Same thing where you see Nan. I always actually had this conversation with Brett. Brett is the guest whisperer. She finds these people out of nowhere and suddenly they blow up on the Karen Reed scene. So it's really interesting.
Brittany has this unique ability. Yes, I do have a YouTube.
Yeah, please talk about it. Please tell everybody
run.
where they can find you real quick.
Wait, can you put her chat down so I can see my YouTube?
Because you forgot.
It is Lacey on X.
I'm about to snort now.
I've never done X. I'm not a drug user. And it's an EY. But now it works because I'm on Twitter. So I should have probably just said Lacey on Twitter. And then on Twitter /X, I am Lacey J Makes because I created it in 2008 and I thought this was going to be the new MySpace and like it would just disappear in a year. I had no thought about my personal protection. So we bought assault rifles. So that's what I always like to tell people when I share my full name on X. But thank you so much, guys, for having me.
For those who don't know, it's Lacey J Omeeks. I think we figured that out. It's Omeeks.
Omeeks, yeah. I really wanted to marry like
Meeks.
Oh, Meeks, you said, yes, sorry. Yeah.
Meeks. No, I still like the Meeks. All right, I gotta go, y'all. But I hope I'll see you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. Thanks, Britt. And if not, I'll see you on Britt's channel on Monday. I'm gonna have her be able to like stream to hers as well. Bye, Jason. Have a lovely night, y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Take care, Lacey. I'm so glad she came. Oh
yeah, me
my
too.
gosh. I had never really spoken to her before like yesterday.
I was really excited when I saw your panel because I'm like, oh my God, I love everybody on this panel already. Like before I sent you the message, I'm like, this is great.
Well, she and I had a really like interesting conversation today. And, it just, the all in all of it just kind of, kept leading me back to, what I like about this movement is that there's something that I really have in common with everybody. On top of just how we feel about Karen. There are a lot of us who are multifacetedly like-minded. So,
it is interesting because when you were saying something earlier and you were talking about along the same lines about all the people here and this and that, it does seem like there's something about, I think, I'm not going to tell anyone's stories, but I think in the conversation that I've had with each of the people that were on the panel tonight and many others in this movement that we tend to gravitate toward, one of the things that we all have in common is that we've all overcome this kind of adversity, some kind of adversity. It's usually different, right? So, but we all have these things, and talking about what our individual adversities we overcame from is for another day and another stream and our own things. But most of us have discussed them publicly, and it's a scenario where it really does give you kind of a different mindset when you approach topics like this, because it's so interesting how you get into this zone where you start out judgment free, right? You start out in this situation because you have been through this adversity, so you no longer consider yourself to be a person that's above all of this.
Yeah.
And then that opens up so many doors. Like, I think everyone should, I hate to call things, I'm guilty of doing this. You and I had a conversation the other day where I did it, calling things like my superpower, but I think it's our superpower that we've overcome some kind of adversity because it puts you in the right mindset for justice related causes like this or whatever else.
Yeah, 100%. I'm right on board with you. Oh man. Well, Jason, you're the last person here. So I was planning on doing a toast to the
I've got my
Massachusetts. All right, good. So, chat, if you are still with us, if you have a glass, please raise it to the Massachusetts State Police doing the bare fucking minimum for their PR. Here, here. Good job.
cheers.
We're so proud of you today.
Mine's empty, by the way. It's just a prop. I finished it right before I came on air. But
my streaming area is full of props. Oh my goodness.
it's so
Okay.
funny.
Whoever. Okay. And you guys are more than welcome to type in whatever toast that you have, but
There you go. I know I wasn't properly prepared for the toast. I wish I knew. I would have brought something, but
Hakuna Matata. Yeah, I'm just I've got to say it. I am flabbergasted that this happened. My flabbers are in full gas station mode that they were releasing this information before the start of this trial.
that was overwhelmingly that was the response that I was getting via text message today. My sister called me, like I was having a lot of conversations with people today where they couldn't believe it that they actually announced it, that they actually released it and announced it.
Mhm.
And the truth is how much longer could they have stretched it out? And now, like, the trial looks like it's not going to start April 1st and it's going to get pushed back, and we have all of these things. Like, how much longer could they have really stretched it out, especially when we know they needed their PR strategy to blame him for the Sally Port video and do different things? The real
Right.
interesting question is going to be what happens next.
Very true.
Does there was something really interesting in the statement that Proctor's sister or Proctor's family put out today, where it said something about, they said, Proctor and his detectives, where they almost elevated him. So it's almost like the opposite of a statement that the Mass State Police or that the Commonwealth would want to put out, where they're trying to minimize him, right? Lead detective is just a term, and it's not. It just means he's the one, But they said in their statement,
that's an elevated position,
right? And so they said in the statement, Proctor and his detectives, as if they work for him, which is funny because he was not a supervisory detective. He happened to be the lead detective, but he wasn't a supervisor.
Oh my
But
God.
in their statement, they used the wording Proctor and his detectives, and I said, I wonder if that's a warning. I wonder if that's them, if that's their way of reaching back out to the Commonwealth, saying, "Hey, you better do something to take care of us, because we're just going to talk about how important he was and how influential he was, and how, the last thing that the Commonwealth wants is them talking."
Yeah.
I wondered if someone's playing 3D chess over there and saying, like, we're gonna get some kind of concession here, we're gonna get something done. Is there some behind the scenes deal where Proctor's gonna be taken care of? Because the worst thing for them is if Proctor starts talking now.
Yeah. And, Brian brought up a really interesting point that I had not yet thought of, but he now has lost his immunity status as a law enforcement officer as well. He gets a certain level of immunity. So now when he comes up to testify, what's he going to do? Is he going to take the fifth? Or is there possibly more consequences for him? So yeah, now here we are again, guys. With every turn, there's more questions than answers.
It's true. Yeah. Qualified immunity is such an interesting topic. There could be a whole show on that. There's a great public interest law firm, the Institute of Justice, that does amazing. They do great work on constitutional rights in general. They're great on the First Amendment and several other things. But qualified immunity is a special focus on theirs, where you have officers that are flat out committing crimes, and you have and when someone tries to sue them, file a Section 1983 lawsuit, you have jurisdictions where they're claiming qualified immunity because they're saying it's not. You're only allowed to claim qualified immunity if you can say that the law wasn't clearly established that you couldn't do this thing that you did. Otherwise, if you're a police officer, you get the benefit of the doubt. And by clearly established, that means like maybe your circuit court of appeals, like you're in the 11th circuit down there, and I'm in the 2nd circuit, Massachusetts in the 1st circuit. So those courts of appeals, if they have a case on point in that circuit, saying that this is a violation when being arrested for recording a police officer is a violation of your First Amendment right. Well, Glick v. Cuniff in the 1st circuit says that it's already been decided that yes, you have a constitutional right to film police.
Yeah.
So it's now clearly established. But if they don't have one of those precedential cases in their circuit or a Supreme Court case on point, police officers generally can claim qualified immunity, saying it wasn't clearly established that we could do this, so that we couldn't do this. So we get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
In some cases, the things that they did are crimes. So you're like,
and you know,
but
how
it's not been clearly established.
And that parallels so much with Karen's case too, because this case, in its uniqueness, there are no precedential cases to show. Like every time Karen takes an appeal to the next level, the main qualifier that keeps getting in her way is that there is no existing case law for her circumstance, which, you know, I would have hoped that by now one of these judges would have said, okay, here are the factual fucking bullet points here. Mistrial, July 1st. Almost instantaneously, jurors come forward saying they were acquitting and unanimous on not guilty for count 1 and count 3, and that they were only hung on count 2. That was corroborated by multiple jurors. No other jurors came forward saying anything to the contrary. So how is it that simply because there is no case law, judges don't want to touch it?
Well, not only that. So it's funny that you bring this up, because it is a very common problem in this area of constitutional law because of these qualified immunity things and the different types of immunities out there. And what ends up by happening, there was a really interesting case out of Texas where another First Amendment case, there was a First Amendment auditor who was out and he was filming the outside of a police station from a public sidewalk. The police didn't like it. They went, they arrested him unlawfully for doing this. They went and they took his keys and they drove around the area with his keys, and they kept hitting the open button on his keychain until they found a car that flashed, and they searched his car. It wasn't a search incident to arrest because he didn't get pulled over. He wasn't with his car. He didn't do all these things.
Right. It's a Fourth Amendment violation.
It's a Fourth Amendment violation, right? So in all of these things, they tried to, and at the federal district court level, were able to get qualified immunity, and they had to appeal and bring it to the Texas 5th Circuit, maybe. I think the 5th Circuit's in Texas. So they had to appeal and brought it to the 5th Circuit, and they were able to actually make precedent in that case. But because the 5th Circuit didn't already have a law, they didn't have case law on point on recording the police, they still granted the qualified immunity, but they basically said, going forward, it is now settled law that this is protected First Amendment recording, right? So they were able to at least then establish precedent going forward. So they say from this point forward, it's clearly established. But it's rare. What the courts generally do is it's almost like they don't want to be the court of first impression on any topic. They don't want to make a decision. They want it. So it's easy for them to just deny it by saying, oh, well, there's no precedent. There's never going to be precedent until the courts take this seriously and address these issues, you know?
Exactly. And this is why, like, I wish that there were more time for this to go perhaps all the way to the Supreme Court, because that's
Yeah.
all the Supreme Court does. Supreme Court, they live in that pool of setting precedent. So they're not going to have a problem looking at this case the way it is, weighing it against the law and weighing it against the Constitution and making a decision.
You would
But
think not, right? You would think not, right? But look at Jen. Jen was here today, and
yeah,
they
true.
they didn't take her
They-
case.
They wouldn't even take it.
Right.
But
They chose not to hear it.
But with her case, I think it was more of a lack of investigation issue than it was a constitutional rights issue. Were there constitutional rights, not being upheld? Yes. But at the same time, I think it was more of the wool being pulled over everybody's eyes and more of a cover up with hers than it was more, with Karen, this is a glaring not Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment problem.
Yeah, so several there's actually
Several amendments, actually.
Yeah, so the right to a fair trial, the right to counsel of your choice, the right to there's so many things in there
Right.
that are impacted,
And a
and
right
not
to-
just by the proceedings going on in court now, but all the way back from the beginning with the investigations.
certainly.
Aiden's trial, their First Amendment's been implicated. The Fourth Amendment's been implicated because,
Yep.
In open court, they agreed not to search his phone without a taint team, but they searched it. We know they did, right? Because as your guest is going to tell us on Sunday, she was
They
fired
did.
as a result of their not, and that one's a little hairy because they had a warrant, but then they agreed in court that they weren't going to search it, and then they did. So it's like,
Yeah.
was
And
that
then-
perjury, or was it a Fourth Amendment violation, or was it like the Commonwealth is ripe with cases that are going to do that? But when let's look at the buffer zone, right? So the buffer zone case, and there are reasonable people that disagree on this buffer zone thing. And I say that the court probably has the right to implement a buffer zone on its own property.
Mhm.
But when the court starts saying to private businesses that are within this thing,
Sure.
you can't, or homes, people who live within the buffer zone, you can't put a sign in your yard, or you can't do these things. And I say, wait a minute, they're not even subject to the court's jurisdiction here.
No,
Like the court
they're
has
not.
no
It's their own
jurisdiction over
property.
that person on their own property, exercising their own First Amendment right. That's not within so I think those cases could have gone farther. But Mark Randazza, I had a great conversation with Attorney Randazza about it. He took the case, he brought it to the courts, it got denied. He brought it to the First Circuit, he got denied, and everyone was like, this is great. We finally have a SCOTUS case where we're going to get some action on the First Amendment here. And he said, you know what? He said, right now, the person who presides over so the way the Supreme Court works is the Supreme Court justices are also assigned for what they call injunction practice. They each have a district or more than one. So in the First Circuit, which encompasses Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, they have the Supreme Court justice that's assigned to oversee injunction practice. If you go to the Supreme Court and say, I want an injunction on this buffer zone, is Ketanji Brown, and she's a wild card on the First Amendment. And she has she's made public statements about the First Amendment that basically she is upset that it hamstrings the government from being able to do things. And he says, even if we raise a massive amount of money to try and go to the Supreme Court to get an injunction in order to reform the buffer zone and make her, there's several things she didn't make required findings in order to issue the buffer zone. She did. Bev plays fast and loose all the time, right? So she has all of these things that she didn't do. And it can't even be addressed because the bottom line is that Supreme Court justice just won't agree to do the injunction. So it's over. So you could pursue the case. But you're not going to get the injunction. So by the time they get heard by SCOTUS, by the time they make it onto the calendar and get their cert petition ruled on or whatever else, Karen Reed's trial is going to be long over.
Yeah. And, let me just say as a side note, if Beverly were really that concerned for the safety and welfare of the jurors, the witnesses, whoever else, she would have sequestered everybody.
Right. Well, no, and we go back in her history, and we when we have the Chesna trial, the first Chesna trial, she literally, instead of allowing a change of venue, thanks, Prince Lover, you too. Instead of allowing a change of venue, she bussed the jurors in from Worcester County all the way to Norfolk County, which added hours to their day on both sides, right? Hours in the morning and hours in the afternoon to get back. It made for such an uncomfortable situation that she had a juror revolt. She basically had a juror who refused to deliberate and ended up by causing a mistrial in that. And she could simply have granted the change of venue, which she should have. I mean, there was not much of a better case than a change of venue than a police officer being murdered on the street within that county. The guy probably couldn't have got a fair trial, right? The guy probably really couldn't have gotten a fair trial there. In the case, it wasn't controversial like the John O'Keefe murder. You know, he hit Michael Chesna in the head with a brick.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah.
Case.
And so you have this situation, and she tanked the entire case, and that poor family had to go through a retrial, which she also insisted that she preside over, much like the Karen Reed trial.
Yeah.
So she gets on these cases. It's hard not to make an assumption about her, because she gets on these cases that are high profile, that are cases that are going to garner a lot of media attention or whatever else, and then she refuses to let them go. And that's exactly what we see here.
And there's supposed to be a rotation of these cases to prevent this level of familiarity, which is what can at least turn into a conflict of interest going down the road. When you're a fresh set of eyes on a fresh case, there may not be a conflict, but things happen over time, especially in small towns. You become too close to it as a judge who's supposed to be impartial, and that's why this rotation is in place. And she basically nailed her ass to this bench.
It's true.
And did something similar with this other case.
Well, the problem is despite their rotation rule, right, which is they've implemented themselves, right? So I guess they're free to ignore their own rule. In spite of their rotation rule, the person who's responsible for implementing it is the presiding justice of the Superior Court in the county. Well, guess who that is in this county? It's Beverly Cannone. So she's implemented the rule, and she's rotated herself into the case, and now she stays. And now, of course, when they went forward with their going to the SJC and everything else, they've now come down and they've said that she is to preside over the case because she's familiar with it and she'll take special concerns based on these things. The truth of the matter is the entire mistrial is her fault. Because at the end of the day, whether it be bias, whether it be corruption, whether it be incompetence, she simply could have said, have you reached a decision on any of the counts?
Yep.
Right. And she could have asked them one at a time.
Yep.
She could have done things in order to do that. What it looks like now, and I don't know, reading the tea leaves, I don't know how Karen's going to do in the First Circuit. I think she should prevail if we're talking about from a justice standpoint. But we go all the way back to Marbury versus Madison when you talk about whether actions of an official are required or ministerial. I have a personal connection to a case, which I'm not going to talk about today, but where it was an interesting question. It's simply, is she required to have clarified the instructions to the jury? Is she required to have done that? Was their vote official or was it ministerial until they turn in that form? Right. So I've read the briefings. I love their position. I think that fairness and justice probably requires that the First Circuit act and do something. Do I think that they will? I don't have high hopes at the end of the day. But the truth of the matter is that's her fault. Just like Chesna was her fault. Just like these other things. There are decisions that she makes. There are actions that she takes that are negatively impacting these cases, and there seems to be no recourse.
No, and everything seems so subjective, especially in Massachusetts, with, like you said, no oversight, no consequence. There's definitely a set standard, but almost every single rule, at least somewhere in there, gives the judge this extremely wide berth when it comes to, their own view.
It's true. You're really in this. They have this judicial discretion that's incredibly wide, like you said, and the check and balance is the presiding judge, and this is the presiding judge. So now you're like, oh, now
right? Yeah, that's the epitome of, well, let me speak to the manager. I am the manager.
There you go.
And, yeah. So
it's crazy.
Oof. Yeah, it is. Well, Jason, I'm going to go to bed.
I think it's time. Yeah, we've come to this natural conclusion of our conversation, I think.
But I need to have you back on for, a whole stream of your own again, a whole episode of your own one of these days very soon.
Anytime. It's always a pleasure. I always love being here. I haven't paid enough attention to the chat, but I may go back through and answer questions later. And
yeah, knock yourself out. I'm gonna leave the stream open for a while.
I love it.
Please remind everybody of where they can find you too.
I do have you think I would know? I don't remember. HW on Your Case is my YouTube channel, although I literally have not posted anything there in a long time, and I promise to remedy that very soon. And on Twitter, everyone can reach me at HW on Your Case. Actually, it's the same. This is awful. I haven't done this in so long as I've taken a nice little break that I don't even remember my own information here. Yes, at HW on Your Case, both on YouTube and on Twitter. That's the right handle. So.
And HW is for Haley Walbrecht.
Even though I'm not Haley Walbrecht, as you can very plainly see.
Yes, definitely not. Oh goodness.
I just can't. I'm like the jilted ex-boyfriend though. I just can't let her go. Just can't quite fully let her go.
Well, I mean, but that's how people know you now. They, that's become part of your online identity. I understand it.
I love it. It's my favorite thing now. People are like, "Oh, you're Haley Walbrecht," and I'm like, "No, I'm not Haley Walbrecht."
Yeah, I'm not. Oh goodness, yeah. That man, you crack me up. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for the collective noise that we have made. I mean, they say the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and we finally got something today, even though it was something that undoubtedly and without question needed to be done, and there was no denying it on the part of the Massachusetts State Police. At least it got done. So let it be from this day forward that March the 19th is Adios Proctor Day. So, all right, y'all. Tomorrow is another big day. Karen has court. Be back here on this channel on Sunday for two things. We're working a double, y'all. First, we're going to have Miss McKinney Esquire at 1 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are in here to hear from her, get her insights, and to help fill her in on all the shenanigans that have happened between the first trial and now, because that's all she's watched, remember? And then that night, we're coming back to raise money for Aiden Carney, aka Turtle Boy. We're going to have Michelle Littlefield. We're probably going to have Lacey back. We may even have Jason back. So make sure you guys are here pretty much all day on Sunday. So thank y'all again. Much love to each and every one of you. Peace, love, and butt dials. Have a great night. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.